Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is a garden tour that's going to start with a view of the front of the house. The house has had new siding added to it. This was, if you followed along with this project here in Raleigh, North Carolina, started on it 3 years ago or so and just jumped right into the garden, but with a lot of promises that the house was going to have some changes as well. And those have finally taken place. So the old green aluminum siding was taken off. This hardy plank was put on. It's been painted blue. This porch just went on in the last couple days. They're going to allow the wood to dry out some before it gets painted. But big changes have happened out here. We were talked about in the original video putting a porch all the way across, and that may still take place at some point. But in the meantime, we're actually going to do some foundation planting left and right of here. So there'll be some big changes out here in the garden. A lot of things rearranged. All of those projects are coming up soon. But I thought we'd walk around and take a look at some of the things that are still looking good here in the garden. In almost middle September, the garden has been neglected a little more than we have done in the past couple of seasons. Mainly, there's been a lot of construction going on. We've left town a few times. The road has been repaved behind the camera right now, and so it's just been a crazy place. But there are still some things looking great out here. So let's jump right in. We've pointed out a couple times this incredible milkweed. This Gomphocarpus, physocarpus is the Latin name for this one. Swan milkweed, some people call it. Hairy balls is another one that goes by. You can see these seed pods, these incredible seed pods, and then they open up with the typical milkweed kind of cottony interior around the seed. It's very similar, honestly, very similar to cotton if you've ever had any experience with that, how the seed attaches to it and everything, you know, how difficult that seed would be to remove from that. Really interesting milkweed. It has had monarchs all over it doing their thing, and it has aphids on it. It has tons and tons of ladybugs all over it. It's still blooming, so the pollinators are still on it, the bees are still on it, other butterflies are coming to the flowers. It's really probably the most life on any single plant I've ever seen. We're shooting early in the morning, so you won't see as much of it, but all of these insects are hiding down here in the lower parts, in the lower parts of the plant. Some of them are, probably doing damage. Some of them are probably helping out. Some of them are, all the aphids that are on it right here. You have ladybugs. I can see ladybugs right here eating aphids this morning. Right there. It's actually two ladybugs kind of making out, I think. They'll go back to eating aphids later, I guess. But anyway, it's the most life I've ever seen on a single plant, and it's been like this the entire season. It's now flopped all over the place. It's 4 feet tall and 5 feet wide, and it was amazing how fast it grew and how much life it supports. A few other things around the driveway edge. One is that marigolds that we planted earlier in the season, which the rabbits just eat early in the season, really come on when the days get a little shorter and the nights get a little bit cooler. They really start to jump up and look great. And I sold a lot of marigolds for years at my garden center. We would start them because they actually, here where we are in Raleigh and then further south, marigolds just do fantastic through September, October, and into November. They'll take light frost and very light freezes without getting a whole lot of damage until it gets really cold. And so that's, those marigolds can bloom for 3 months, whereas one of those mums, little round ball mums that you buy at the garden centers will last just a few weeks. So I really do. And marigolds, of course, come in all kinds of colors other than yellow. Some of our annuals, this side of the driveway gets a little more neglect, and so the tithonia have now faded. There's a few flowers left on them, and there's a few seed heads that the goldfinches are coming and taking the seed. But we are going to start pulling some of the annuals out this week. It's time to start thinning the herd out here. It looks a little bit messy. We leave things in place again for the late arriving pollinators and butterflies and that kind of thing. And then of course the goldfinches, once they're pretty picked over though, it's time to get them out of the garden. I'd like to get some of these annual spaces, put a little bark down in them so that they don't get a lot of weeds germinating in those spaces during the winter time. If I wait too late, those weeds will already be germinating down in these beds. So off with their heads this week. This is a spoiler alert. The flowering plant of the month for September will definitely be lantana, and I'll get that video up pretty soon. Lantana just is such a great performer here in the fall, and I'll talk more about that and about how to have it really kind of peak during September and October. Even in colder areas where you want to use it as an annual, these can carry on right up until you get a hard frost or freeze, but we'll talk more about that in that video. This lantana here was cut down to nothing, basically. It was cut way back. Zinnias that were in this bed were pulled out that were just kind of tired. It was covering up some conifers that are down here below it, and the whole thing needed to be gotten under control. And this was maybe a month, maybe 5 weeks ago now, something like that. I don't actually remember. It's just come back with a bang, and it just blooms and blooms and blooms. And again, pollinators all over it. Foliage is clean. We looking around the garden, and very few things in September still have their foliage really kind of peak. Everything is a little bit tired. The summer's been hot. The summer's, all kinds of problems. And the lantana looks like it's fresh as it just came out of a truck at a garden center, out of a greenhouse. It's just amazing that way, where it just doesn't really have any of those kinds of issues and just continues to be a star in the garden later into the season than a lot of other annuals or perennials. There's a few of the fall blooming things still blooming out here. A lot of our what we would call fall blooming things really started very, very early, anemones and other things. But the asters are just really getting started. That one's budded up like crazy. Rabbits eat those things and actually limb them up into small trees, and it's been growing up that milkweed all season. That milkweed, of course, is being worked on right now by the caterpillars. On the other side of the fence, the Caryopteris just continues to shine. This is first choice Caryopteris, and it was cut back to 18 inches, and this is as tall as it got during the growing season, and it's maybe 40 inches tall and a little wider than tall. It hasn't stopped blooming for 2 months, and it's still budded up like crazy. This thing will still be blooming until we get a frost. The evergreen dogwood. So this thing goes through this phase of, having the flower buds through March and April, and then in May, those bracts start to open and they're kind of greenish, and then this thing doesn't really peak color until June or July, and then it sets these fruit, which stay small until this time of year, and then they start to gain some size and gain some color, and then they're actually edible. I've never actually tried them, but they are in fact edible. I don't know if we'll have enough time for them to completely mature before it gets cold, but this Empress of China dogwood is just always doing something. I mean, so this, and of course it keeps its leaves during the winter time, but that process from the beginning of the flower buds on this thing until the fruit formed and are turning red is probably a 6-month period of time, maybe more, maybe 7 months out of the year. This thing is constantly evolving and doing something. Foliage still looks fantastic, considering this thing's out in the full sun. You wouldn't expect it to be out in the full sun. Its roots are shaded, so there's other things growing around the base of it that keep its roots shaded, and the top of it sitting up here in the full sun. Most of the seedling dahlias we have are on the fence on the other side of the vegetable garden, but we do plant some in the neighboring property back here, and you can see the bees overnighting. Just got what I call freeloader bees that stay out here overnight. Tons and tons of them, and these continue to bloom. They could be looking a little better than they do if we came out here and deadheaded these and just in general clean them up, stake them a little better. They could look a little better right now, but we're actually waiting for these seed heads to fully form and dry out. If I open this, you'll see, the amount of seed that's actually in these, in there toward the middle. All these individual papery things are the seed attached to them. I think they're meant to be wind spread. You know, that's why they have that little wing on them. But anyway, lots and lots of seed forming on these. They're not quite ready, but we'll collect them when they are. Here's one that actually is ready. I can pull off and show you. There's the seed forming. Every single one of these, look how many seeds this actually is. Every one of these little papery things is a seed that's fully formed, because what you're looking at on any aster is these rays going around the edge are actually individual flowers, and then we have individual flowers. This bee is doing some funky stuff. Each of these individual flowers in the center as well. So he did a backflip. Every single one of these is actually an individual flower. We look at this and call this a dahlia flower, but it's actually dahlia flowers. It's, you know, up to probably 250 or so individual flowers right there. And each of those is capable of forming a seed as long as we get a pollinator on it to take care of that. The emerald snow Loropetalum seems to always be blooming. It blooms heavily in the mid to late spring, and then it'll repeat bloom a little bit when the nights get cool in the fall, heavily like it is. But even during the summertime, this thing seems to be blooming. It's got a little bit of vertical growth on it right now. And so what I'll do is these 3 or 4 limbs that have come up very vertical and are going to get taller than I wanted, I'll just chase these down into the plant a bit with some pruners and prune those way back down into the plant, and then it'll look like that keep that low spreading habit that I'm trying to have it keep. But the foliage is so nice on this plant. Everybody's, you know, loves purple Loropetalum, and I understand why, but this green, this kind of emerald green foliage with this new light green growth, and then this kind of greenish white flower, a witch hazel. This is in the witch hazel family, so you know there's a reason that looks like a witch hazel flower, because it's in the same family. But that kind of frilly greenish white flower just really, really stands out on it. The milkweed we started with definitely has the most pollinators on it. The dahlias at this point are probably second overall. The singles on the dahlias, not the big doubles, but the singles just have, I mean, literally every single flower has a bee or multiple bees on them. And then right up there near the top of the list is this Beijing beauty, Mahonia, which this one's been in the ground now for right at 2 years probably at this point. And you can see how compact it is. A really interesting habit. But the thing I've been most amazed with this plant is it probably blooms 6 months out of the year. It's not an exaggeration. Here, normally on most Mahonia, we're gonna see them bloom kind of January, February, March, and then as it gets hotter, they're just kind of done for the season. And this one, it just seems like it puts on a flush, blooms, puts on a flush, blooms. And here we are in September with it coming into full flower, and I can literally hear the bees buzzing around me, trying to get onto these bright, bright yellow flowers. There's a dwarf pomegranate planted along the edge of the vegetable garden earlier this year, and it was this tall when it went in, and now it's, you know, 14 inches or so. Plant's looking fantastic. This butterfly bush is called Little Grape. It's one of the butterfly candy butterfly bushes. There were 5 of them planted. They all look great. We moved dahlias that were along this bed edge over to the fence earlier in the season. And, you know, it's always funny, you know, when you're trying to put something somewhere, sometimes it doesn't want to grow, it dies, it's just a, you know, pain. And then sometimes when you try to move something, you can't get it all and it just won't die, you know. So, you know, moving these dahlias out of here was fairly unsuccessful because it left pieces in place and they've continued to come up. So I've got this dahlia coming up through the middle of this butterfly bush. So we'll call this a Buddleia. That'll be our combination of Buddleia and dahlia, a Buddleia. And it looks great. Maybe keep this combo for next year. Here's a dahlia coming up through sage, so we'll call this Sedalia, will be the name of that one. Again, you know, try to remove them. These are the perfect dahlias though for the pollinators. This is the ones you'll see the most pollinators on. There is some sorrel back here behind it. There was sorrel planted throughout this border, and we've had deer this season that come out here, and you come out and look at them and they look back at you and they literally have a mouthful of sorrel. It's kind of entertaining, honestly, because it's something we just did from seed. And if it keeps them from eating something more valuable, then that's fine. I don't know what to do at this point. I'm going to have to either, you know, put in a taller fence back here, or just, you know, think more about, you know, deer-resistant plants. But I'll continue to plant the sorrel, and you know, they can have that for now. Lastly, in this video, let's talk about things upcoming in the garden. we've had things like this acanthus just really burn out on us this year, and you know, hosta that just definitely look rough at this point. There's a lot of things to talk negatively about in the garden because it's just been so hot, so dry. We've given it less attention than we normally give it. And so I could just sit on here and be negative, and you know, but we've planned this garden in such a way that we have a lot of things, a lot of winter interest pieces out here, and we have a lot of fall interest pieces, really a lot of fall interest pieces. This Farfugium is a great example of that. We have several Farfugium out here in the garden, and they bloom late September and October. So as the nights get cooler, we're going to start to see start to see some new growth coming out of the bottom of this thing, and we're gonna have yellow flowers sitting up on here in October with the bees all over them. In fact, we had Farfugium blooming almost right up until Christmas last year because it just never got cold. So really looking forward to those. And let me show you one other thing we're looking forward to. We actually have several other things. There's a lot of encore azaleas out here, and as soon as the nights get cooler, you know, the encore azaleas will start to rebloom, and I can see flower buds on autumn lilac out here in front of me. There are several other Mahonia out here that will bloom later in the fall and into the early winter. And then probably I always say lots of things are my favorite plants, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, probably camellias are my #1 overall favorite plants. I love because they bloom at a time of year when nothing else is blooming. Typically, or less things are blooming. I love them because they're tough, evergreen plants. I love them because they come in all different shapes. I love them because there's so many different species that we can use to get blooms at different times. But this is October Magic Ruby. This is one of Bobby Green's great introductions to the Southern Living Plant Collection. Visited Bobby recently, was down there with him, and this October Magic Ruby just continues to be a standout. It is absolutely loaded with buds, and this one gets a double red, semi-double to double red flower on it, and they'll be blooming toward mid-October, something like that. They need cooler nights. We actually have one out in the front garden that is another one of his introductions. It's a little earlier blooming, so probably the next time we do some sort of tour video out here, it'll already be throwing flowers out by late September, early October. But I think camellias are one of those things I always look forward to. I always look forward to them. One other reason is I've been in the green industry or horticulture industry for 37 years or something like that. I probably need to do the new math on that, might be more. The camellias bloom at a time of year when I actually got to rest a little bit. And so as it slowed down a little bit, when that time of year, the only time of year I was actually able to enjoy plants, and all the time I've spent in plants was the time of year that camellias were blooming. So thank you guys very much for following along. What's a standout in your garden right now? Thanks for watching.